Hello everyone! I am Alice of KHR Arts and Cloud Orchid Publishing, and today I am going to talk to y'all about how my experience at Columbia College Chicago impacted my professional career as an author. So let's get into it. First things first. I was very blessed that I attended Columbia College of Chicago, not to be confused with Columbia in New York. Those are very different schools for very different things. Columbia College of Chicago. And I was very blessed to attend during what's known as the golden age of Columbia. So I am what we affectionately like to call a Columbia kid, which is what we call our alumni. And during the golden age of Columbia was before this whole restructuring of the school happened. So this happened a few years after I graduated. And what they did was they realized they had spent way too much money buying way too many buildings, because the whole appeal of this particular college is that it's in downtown Chicago, in the Loop. So like we have buildings on Michigan Avenue, like big time. Those are expensive buildings. So unfortunately, they spent too much money on too many buildings too quickly. And so they kind of shot themselves in the foot with trying to recoup that money by taking away what made Columbia special, by trying to appeal to a larger audience to get more students and making it more into a run-of-the-mill university rather than the very special, unique art school that it originally was supposed to be. I got to attend while it was still that very unique art experience, and it's because of that I am the professional author that I am today. Now, this is not to be confused with me being the writer that I am today. I am the writer that I am today because, one, I was born with the massive privilege of just natural raw talent. It is bonkers, just right out the womb, how good I am at storytelling. That's something you can't learn, that can't be taught. It's just the way I am, and I've talked about that in a lot of my other videos. Two, I had the massive privilege of that I'm a legacy writer. My mom is a writer. My great-grandmother is a writer. We have other writers in our family. I was groomed to do this from the start. Once it was apparent that storytelling and writing was my thing, that was my track for life. This is what you're gonna do. This is your purpose in life. I was given every opportunity. When I was like 7 years old, my mom would take my little manuscripts and she would redline them for me. And she was brutal because she wanted me to improve. This was no like, oh, you're so special, dear. Nah, she got that red pen out, scribbled all over everywhere. I read Strunken White at 7 years old, okay? That is the level of grooming that I had for this profession. Three, the fact that I was encouraged at all. The fact that my family was so gung-ho on this is your purpose. I can't tell you the amount of people that I meet where their families are like, writing is stupid, writing's not a real profession, writing won't get you anywhere, and they discourage it at every turn. So the fact that I was never discouraged from doing this, in fact, I was encouraged till the cows came home to do this. Massive privilege. And then four, the fact that I was left to my own devices to be able to work on my writing as much as I wanted, with a little asterisk on there that it was much to my parents' chagrin that I would frequently not do my homework because I was too busy working on writing. So it was very much, once you get all your homework done, work on your writing to your heart's content. There were a lot of times I admit I was working on my writing instead of doing my homework because writing was a lot more fun than doing algebra problems. So the fact that I have those massive privileges in being a writer and becoming the writer that I am today, that I was afforded all of that. And then on top of it, I was given the professional education at Columbia. That's what put me over the edge to be the author I am today. How exactly did Columbia do that? Columbia did that in that back when I went, one, they had small class sizes. They had class sizes between 10 and like 15 students. And there were hard limits for how big classes were allowed to be. And that was so that teachers could give individualized attention to every student. There was no such things as lecture halls, even for our gen ed classes like basic science, math, English, that you needed just to graduate. Even those had to be small classes. And a big part of that, which also made Columbia special, is that they told the teachers they hired to do the gen ed courses, they were like, listen, okay? These are artists. These are art kids. They don't know how to do math. They don't know how to do science. They don't know how to do this stuff, okay? So we need you to teach at like the lowest common denominator here and understand they are not here to be a scientist. They are not here to be an engineer. They are here to do art. So can we please meet them at their level? And on top of it, the fact that your final project for your gen ed classes, you use your art form for that final project to show what you learned. So the fact that you're using your own thing for why you're there for your gen ed classes was just unheard of anywhere else. And not only that, the fact that they like, for some reason, still expected you that even if you're there for this particular thing, you still have to do everything at such a high caliber everywhere else. Like the fact that I had to do trigonometry in high school is just craziness. I have never in my entire life ever had to use any of the things that I learned in trigonometry, ever. Just there was no reason for me to have to learn that high level of math. Algebra is pretty much about where I needed to be. Even then, I'm going to phone a friend to make sure that it's right because I can't trust myself because I'm bad at math. Now, not to say it is important for people to get a well-rounded education, but at the same time, we need to also meet people where they're at and just realize, you know what? Some people are just bad at certain subjects, and we just have to accept that, and no amount of just throwing information at them is going to change that. And Columbia understood that. They didn't expect us to know how to do advanced calculus. It was there. If for whatever reason you wanted to do that, it was there, it was available, but it was not a requirement. I took the most basic math class that I could. I took biology because I'm really good at it, and for my final project, I did a cute little comic book about the biology of tigers. It was so much fun. The fact that my gen ed classes like were fun because I got to be arty in them was just an amazing experience that unfortunately I'm pretty sure with the new way that they've structured Columbia, they don't do that anymore. I'm pretty sure they have like normal gen ed classes there now, which again, that was a big part of the puzzle that made Columbia so special, was meeting artists where they are. And with the small classroom size, part of this was also that they made it a requirement during the golden age where all of the teachers for the majors, so writing, dance, music, gallery painting, film, whatever have you, they had to also be a working professional in that field. So all of my writing teachers were also professionally published authors. And this was a requirement because this wasn't just, oh, we're going to teach you how to do writing. At Columbia, they assumed you already knew how to do that. Every major already assumed that's what you're here for. We're not teaching you how to do this. We're teaching you how to make a business out of this. And that's why it was so important for the teachers to be professionals in their own right, because that's a problem at too many colleges and universities, is that the professors have been out of their professional field for so long, or were never even in it to begin with, that their information can be outdated or can be entirely unhelpful for what the student actually needs in order to pursue professionally what they want to do. And that's just such a disservice. And while yes, I am a person who is all for learning for the sake of learning, but can we please be real with the amount of money people spend to go to college and university? People need the stuff that they are learning to be relevant to what they're going to do for their job when they leave. That is literally the whole point of what college and university is supposed to be, is it is supposed to prepare you for the job, for the profession that you are going to go do. And I feel like that disconnect is also a big part of the reason why we have such a massive issue with people and the job market, and all the disconnect there is colleges are just not preparing people to be able to go get jobs, and it's helping nobody. Meanwhile, Columbia gave me all the tools I needed in order to work professionally as an author. Now I know I have so many videos talking about how authors don't make a living writing. I even have a video literally about how most authors don't make a living writing. That's not to say though that that's because Columbia didn't prepare me. It absolutely did. And it also prepared me for that, for the fact that you don't just write a book and suddenly get $1 billion. That's not how anything works. So I at least knew that. But to be able to work as a professional in this industry is what Columbia prepared me for. And I have yet to hear about another university that does that for writers. Most of them are just all that lofty, fancy coffee shop talk of, oh, the smartness of writing, and we're all very smart with our writing and literature and la la la. And honestly, all of that crap does not help you. In fact, it's quite a bit of a disservice. It makes you insufferable, and being insufferable does not help you sell books by any stretch of the imagination. So Columbia helped me by giving me access to professors who were professional authors. So they could literally say to my face, you need to do A, B, and C in order to get your book published. This is the process for how to submit your book to a publication. Back it up before you even submit to a publication. This is what you need to do, A, B, and C, in order to research where you want to submit your book to for publication. This is how to do networking in order to meet editors, to meet literary agents, to meet people that work in the publishing industry, that you have to go out there and network. I learned all of that from my teachers at Columbia. Prior to that, all of my writing classes were all just about, we're all just going to sit and write and be very smart. It didn't tell me any of this business stuff, which honestly is the stuff that you need to know. And this is a big part of why I am light years ahead of people my age in the writing industry. And the reason why I've been light years ahead ever since my mid-20s is because I went to Columbia and I learned all these things. Most people have to learn these things after the fact, and that sucks. There are still plenty of things I had to learn after the fact. Columbia didn't teach me everything because that's literally impossible. There's plenty of things you just have to learn on your own. However, they made me far and above far more prepared than most other authors I know who did not go to Columbia. As a disclaimer, this is not to say the age-old argument, do you need to have a college degree in order to be a professional author? No, you don't. However, it does help, but it only helps if the education you received teaches you about the business of being an author. Sitting in a classroom and just writing stuff all day, a proper education on writing does not make. So no, a creative writing degree where you just sat there and wrote fun stories all day every day is not going to prepare you any better than anybody else. If you went to Columbia during the Golden Age, yes, 100% that will help you far and away more than not having a degree. And so learning about the steps for how to research a publisher, how to submit to a publisher, just all of the etiquette around publishing, because I see this all the time where people don't understand the etiquette. And honestly, the etiquette is the most important part of the process, in that if you piss off a publisher, you've effectively blackballed yourself everywhere in the industry. It is a small world after all, and if you piss off a publisher, they are going to tell other publishers, and those other publishers won't publish you either. Lord help you if you piss off a literary agent. Then you are extra never going to get anywhere with anything, because they will tell everybody that you're insufferable to deal with, which again, being insufferable is not going to help you. So, you know, all the I'm so smart stuff, like, don't do that. I know in the movies they make writers out to be, oh, we're all so smart and blah, because it's fun, it's entertainment, it's entertaining to see writers as these snooty asshole people for whatever reason. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to help you sell books, it's not going to help you network, it's not going to help you get published. Absolutely do not behave like that. Just do not. And I learned that at Columbia, is rule number 1, don't be an insufferable asshole, because nobody likes that. They taught me how to behave at networking events. They taught me, we practiced how to talk to people at networking events. On top of that, they gave us opportunities. They took us to the networking events. They put us in front of real editors and publishers and literary agents. Columbia had a thing called Story Week. This entire thing that was just for the writing part of Columbia, because there were all these other parts. There were painters, there were dancers, musicians. My brother went there for film, and that's why he's now working in the movies in LA, because of his experience at Columbia, and that's the reason why he has the job he has. is because of Columbia, all of those other sectors. But we had Story Week, which was a week-long event where there were all these different networking events where they would fly in professional authors, publishers, literary agents, just all these people in the industry for students to interact with. And we were even given opportunities to do pitch events, which I participated in those, where you got to sit across from a publisher, across from a literary agent, and pitch them your novel. We got to do that. How many students can say that they got to do that? Not many. But at Columbia, that was standard. So I learned how to do all that stuff. I got to make all the mistakes early on, especially because all these professional people were prompted with that, all right, we need to take everything that happens with a grain of salt. They are students. They are learning. Please come from a place of learning and help them to learn the proper etiquette and the proper way to do these things that we're having them do. That was part of this. It wasn't just, hey, here's a free opportunity to pitch your novel. It was also, we're going to put you in front of this professional person and they are going to help guide you through this is how do. And having that little safety net of having the patience of them realizing we are students and we are learning, like nobody gets that. It's pretty much either you win or you lose, and that's it. Either you are inexperienced and you mess up, or you're a professional and they take you seriously. There's no in between 99% of the time. So having this very special space where we were given the grace to be able to mess up and learn is not an experience most writers get to have in the professional world. And so that was another building block that Columbia gave me, that it gave me the opportunity to learn and mess up in a safe place so that I didn't impact my reputation as an author and shoot myself in the foot before I even get started, which I've watched so many people do. And it's so painful to watch because it's just like in slow motion. It's just like, no, stop, don't do that. But it's not obvious to the person who's learning for the first time how to and how to not behave. And people let their emotions take over, and people let their pride over their work take over, and they do and say dumb stuff and then immediately regret it. Or even worse, they don't regret it and then they continue being an idiot and make it worse. However, the biggest part of Columbia, biggest advantage that Columbia gave me, which was also a completely different experience than even most of my classmates got to have, was because, as I said at the beginning of the video, all of those privileges that I had before even getting to Columbia. The fact that I had been writing since I was 3 years old, that was what I did for fun, was lock myself in my room and write little stories. I was writing novels by the time I was 12 years old. So by the time I was in my early 20s at Columbia, I already had a massive amount of writing that I wanted to work on, and I had a massive amount of new ideas that I wanted to create. And so the fact that Columbia literally gave me a time and place to be able to be like, no, you just get to do this. You just get to do this the whole time. And so I took advantage of that. That was a strategy that I grabbed onto at Columbia, is that I was very much aware, because I've always been the kind of person where I plan my day, my week, my month, my year, my life. And unfortunately, those plans the table keeps flipping on me. Like recently, I got laid off from my job. Sucks. It's awful. It has just table flipped all of the plans that I had, and now I have to start over with those plans. But the fact of the matter is, I am a planner. That is the kind of person I am. So when I went to Columbia, I had a plan. I already mapped out, these are all of the courses that I'm going to take. I'm going to take these courses freshman year. I'm going to take these courses sophomore year. I'm going to take these courses junior year, I had a plan already for what I was going to do. And the plan evolved as I went through the process at Columbia, but still, I had a plan. And so the overarching plan was, we are going to write as much as possible while we are here, because I knew I was never going to get a time and space ever again where it was literally all of your time is just for this. You don't have to be an adult. You don't have to worry about adult things. You can just sit here and write. And that's all you have to worry about. That is an amazing privilege. And so I ran with it. And I know I've said this in other videos, but I need to hammer it home. I wrote 600 pages per semester per class. Okay? The bare minimum to pass a class, you needed to write 60 pages a semester. I wrote 600, and that was simply because I knew I have to create the most amount of writing that I possibly can in these few years that I have at this university, because then after that, I have forever to work on them, because the wonderful thing about writing is there is no time limit on being an author, unlike modeling, which was also something I was doing at the same time that I was at Columbia, and that's a whole other story. I've got other videos talking about that, but that was also what gave me perspective, is that modeling is not forever, that I knew my expiration date for modeling was the ripe old age of 24, that once you're about 24, that's when the work starts drying up. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. So even though you can be a writer forever, I knew this little window was not forever, and so I took advantage of it, that I'm like, if I create all of this writing right now, I have forever to edit it and tweak it and work on it and stuff, but the actual basic manuscript itself, I only have so much time to make that happen. And so that's why today I have over 30 titles published, is because the majority of those I wrote at Columbia. I wrote all the manuscripts. Basically, it was like, all right, I've got this rough draft of manuscript done, throw it on the pile, write another one, done, write another one. I have about 100 different stories in, I call it my data vault, in different stages of completion, anywhere from it's just an idea on a page to it is a 75% completed manuscript. 100 different stories. Now, that is a thing that I'm having to accept in my late 30s now, is that I, in my lifetime, am not going to be able to finish all those stories. Unfortunately, that's just reality. We all only have so much time on this earth, and we have to choose what we want to do in that amount of time. So I have to pick and choose which books are the most important for me to write, to make sure most important ones are written now, which ones can wait, and which ones will probably never get written. So that's the thing I'm dealing with, you know, the funness of my own mortality and all that. And again, y'all are probably wondering, you're only in your late 30s. Why are you planning ahead for like when you're gonna die? Because I'm a planner, okay? Got priorities. This is how do in the world of Alice. It's a little scary, it's a little intense, but this is how do. But I knew that at Columbia, that I was like, I need to create as much as I can right now, and then I will worry about what I'm doing with it later. Because I already knew the process of you do A, B, and C, 1, 2, and 3 for writing the book, editing the book, book layout, publisher, marketing, blah, blah, blah. I learned how to do all that stuff, and I was like, I have all the how-do. I have all of the to-do packets. I just need to create all the stuff, and then I can follow the to-do packets later. And that is how I have over 30 titles now. And that is how I'm able to churn out books as fast as I do, is because I'm not going from zero on any of these. None of my books have been, oh, I just finished writing a book, I need to write another one. Let me sit here and think up an idea and then start writing it. Nah, I go to the data vault and I'm like, all right, what do we feel like working on next? Ah, yes, this one, perfect. Put it on the work table. What level of finished is this manuscript? Excellent. La 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 la, finish. All right, it's finished. Now we're gonna edit it. La la la, edit it. I'm not starting from zero, far from it. Geisha hands? Well, yes, that manuscript took me 5 years to complete after Columbia. The amount of time I spent writing that manuscript at Columbia, I spent a full 2 semesters. And the reason why I say that, not a year, is it was 2 separate classes, not in the same year, that I worked on that manuscript. So that I already had all that time that I sat there and contemplated and fiddled about and all that, and then wrote down the manuscript. And then I took it years later and then made it into the story it is today. And then on top of it, I illustrated it. Starting at 0, it probably would have taken me 6 or 7 years to complete instead of 5, if not more, to even just sit there and contemplate creating the idea in the first place. Now, the one exception to this is after my next novel, Be Mine, comes out. Very excited, y'all. My crown jewel of my career. I'm going to get started on it, meaning going to publicly get started on it. This particular crown jewel project is 13 books. I already wrote all 13 books. I just need to get them up to snuff because the manuscripts are old. So I need to update the manuscripts up to my current standards. And because I'm a crazy person, I'm also going to illustrate all of them. So that'll take me extra time to do all the drawings too. However, I had written so many of the books for this particular project before I even got to Columbia that I actually wrote the last 2 novels for that series at Columbia. So even then, I was able to complete that series at Columbia so that now I can work on all those books at my leisure. They're already written. I already know all the way from Once Upon a Time to the end in book 13. I already know the whole story. I just need to edit it and update it and make it better. But it's all written. How many authors do you know that can say that? That can just have a pile of manuscripts that they can just pull out and just be like, I feel like working on this now. Not many. I can tell you that just from the people I've met and that I've talked to at events and stuff. I am not the norm. This is like, people are like, you did what now? You have how many manuscripts? They're how far completed? Excuse me? And the fact that I went to a college where that was what I was there to do. And it was a combination of Columbia giving me the time and space to do it, and then me being motivated to follow through in the most extreme way, because it is extreme, y'all. I went to the absolute extreme at Columbia. And that was the other part of it, is that Columbia was also unique in that they recognized talent. They did not punish talent. There are far too many schools that when they see someone that is just excelling crazy bananas, that they will punish them because it takes extra effort to deal with someone like that. And a lot of other colleges don't want to take that extra effort. Columbia did. Columbia was all about their Columbia kids that were extra talented. We had special classes and special processes that were put in place for when somebody was very clearly, quite frankly, too good for the classes they were doing. You got put in an accelerated program. And that's what I got put in, is that it became very obvious that even at Columbia, my peers were few and far between. There were only a handful of other kids at Columbia that were in my sandbox in terms of being able to be at my level with writing professionally. And so I got put into separate critique groups with those other writers when I was at Columbia, because it became very apparent that I was just discouraging other kids in my classes because I was just up here and they just weren't there. And there's nothing wrong with that. People are at different levels, but it is very discouraging when you're like down here and you're paired with somebody who's up here. It's just not helpful for either party, honestly. So they put me with people that were at my level. And then on top of it, it got to the point where my very last year at Columbia, I was effectively just being babysat. They were like, we don't have to give her a lesson plan. We don't have to give her a structured space. We just need to give her a desk and just let her do whatever she wants. And she will just do it. And that's what Tina did for me my last year at Columbia. She let me just sit in on one of her classes that she was already teaching. And we called it directed study. It's that you are pretending this is a class and you just need a credit to graduate sort of thing. That was effectively what it was. She just gave me a desk at the back of her classroom and she knew I wasn't going to disrupt her class, and she told everybody in the class to pretend I wasn't there. She told everybody, don't worry about what she's doing. She is doing different stuff. She is not in this class. She's not even here. Just ignore it. And even then, I freaked out the students in her class, and I still feel kind of bad about that. But there was one day when I was like, ooh, I want to also participate in this exercise. This seems like a good exercise, where she asked everybody to put their manuscripts on the wall. So tape up the individual pages. And, people had between 1 and 10 pages. And, obviously that wasn't their whole manuscript. It was just the section that they were happening to work on for that particular assignment. Whereas I came in with my whole manuscript and just started taping it up. And the exercise is one that I've talked about in my previous videos, where you use the different highlighters and you highlight the different parts of your story so that you can see, hey, do I have a giant block of dialogue here? Do I have a giant block of prose here? Am I actually describing anything? Stuff like that. It's a super helpful editing process to be able to visually see what's happening with your story. And I was all about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to color my manuscript. I want to do this. So I just started taping up, and Tina just gave me a whole wall. And people at first were like, why does she get a whole wall? And they're like, she's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what she's doing. She gets this wall. This is her wall. Leave her alone. And then very quickly, people started getting upset because I'm just like, la, la, la. taping up pages, coloring in the pages, having a great time. I'm just in my own little world having the best time. Meanwhile, other people are like, why does she have so many pages? Why is her book so big? And Tina's like, don't worry about it. That was literally my experience the whole time at Columbia is I'm just la 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 having the best time. And everybody's like, why? What is she doing? Why is she so far ahead of everyone else? That's not fair. And so it's that combination of what I was already given growing up combined with my experience, not just at Columbia, but during the golden age at Columbia, that I have been able to absolutely just thrust myself out there professionally as an author. And even so, as I said, I'm still learning. I still learn new things whenever I do a new event. I still learn things when I meet other authors and talk to them about their process, about their experiences, about the people in the industry that they're familiar with. That's the great thing about being an author and also just being a creative person, is that you can always improve your craft. You can always learn new things. You can always improve your business and learn new things in order to improve your business. And Columbia helped teach me that too, is that it taught me to always make sure that you are doing everything you can to improve, to do everything you can to learn and to network with the people around you. Because too often people that I encounter that did not go to Columbia and did not go to college for writing, they don't know how to network. They don't see the value in networking. A lot of people don't even see the value of going to events. A lot of people don't even see the value in editing their manuscript, for goodness sake. And so it's because of my experience at Columbia that I've become the professional that I am today. And I can't wait to see where I'm at another 5-10 years from now in all the things that I am now learning on my own professionally in the field. So I want to thank y'all so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to give it a like. And if you're new, subscribe. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.